Okay, once we have created a chart, we might think that maybe it is not the right kind, not the best one to convey the information that we want to highlight. So in this case, once we click inside the graph, we see that we have a number of design tools in which, among other things, we can change the chart type. That is, at the start we chose, immediately upon selecting the data range and calling the chart toolbar, we were able to select a chart type. We selected this one, which is the first it showed us. But anyway, whenever, even if I have already represented chart, and represented some operations, I will always be able to change the chart type. We see that the kinds of graph that Excel has, that it offers us, and that we can use, are very varied. Including apart from the nomenclature, what they are called, it shows us what they are going to look like to make it easier for us to choose which will best convey our information. So, for example, the column chart with vertical columns or bar charts, which are horizontal bars, would be related. But in any case, we can select one or other, whichever works best for us. They can be grouped bars like this one, clustered columns, but it could also be stacked columns. For example, when we select this chart type and we accept, we see that THS graph groups one value with another. Logically, this will only be meaningful when the sum of the two data categories is meaningful. In this case, it is not, because income and consumption are never going to mean anything added together. So in this case, the stacked bar chart is not useful. However, for example, if we were representing phone calls from the first and second semesters in two bars, logically, if we stacked the two bars on top of each other, the first semester plus the second semester, the total bar, logically would be phone calls made throughout the year. So here it does make sense. So it would be suitable to use this kind of graph. Okay. We see that there are others, line graphs, which will represent the data in a unified way, that is, with points represented in space, and it joins them with lines. And we see here, this kind of chart might be useful to us when we want to represent trends or the evolution of a certain index, etc. Well, there are a lot of them. For example, the pie charts are very interesting. Pie charts in reality are only meaningful when we have a single data range. In fact, if we select this pie chart, we see that it gives us a circle. The total is distributed according to the different proportions, to what each of the data, in this case income, contributes to the whole. It has only taken the first column of the ranges of the two that have data, because the pie chart can only represent one magnitude. Of this magnitude, of this total of 360 degree of the circle, we see that since 1970 it has a considerable amount, 1971, etc., etc., each one with the corresponding quantity. Okay, and so on. We can change to other chart types. The bar charts, which are very similar to the column charts, have the same characteristics. The thing is that we might prefer them to go up or to the right in order to better express an idea. Or we can also represent it by areas, which is very much like the line graphs, but in this case, we use them when we are interested in the magnitude, say, when the area enclosed has some physical significance. Okay. There are many that are worth pointing out. Then there are others, stock charts, XY charts, that are used where the magnitudes are more complex, and they are types that can be used, although to a lesser extent. They are not used as often as these ones. Let's give a final indication that in both column and bar charts it is possible to represent the distribution within a whole. So these are going to have they will be stacked column or bar charts, but the overall dimension is always going to be 100%. And what it is going to tell us is how these magnitudes are distributed percentage-wise in relation to each other and the total. As I mentioned earlier, this kind of chats only makes sense to use when the magnitudes we are representing, as a sum of the other, is meaningful, and in this case also the relative distribution of the full 100 also makes physical sense. And so depending, in conclusion, on the data we have and the meaning they have, it will be most suitable to represent them using one or other type of chart. And it will be our duty to choose the one that best represents this kind of chart.